If I reduce a primer enough, can I use it as a sealer? Yes, and you don't have to reduce it. I don't know what you mean by enough, but normally if you reduce primer, and there's something called primer sealer. So Nason sells a primer sealer, PPG sells a primer sealer. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, sniffing too much paint fumes, but they have it. And what I also like is something called the Nason Select Sealer, which is a 1K sealer. So it's good if you're you're ready to paint, and then you notice, oh, I got a couple of metal spots here and there. I got a little bit of body filler showing, through your sanded 400 grit and primer. You're going to get some of those spots sometimes, some glazed putty you see. I like to use a Nason 1K sealer. You basically mix it up. You don't even have to reduce it. You just shoot those areas, let it dry, and then you put your base coat right on top of it. You don't have to sand it. So I would look into that. It's called Select Seal by Nason. But yes, you can use a 2K filler primer as a sealer. You just reduce it 10 to 15% more so it flows out smoother. Okay, but normally if you're using primer as a sealer, I would recommend letting it dry and then sanding it, dry sand or wet sand with 400 grit before you paint it. Okay, true sealer, you do not need to sand. Okay, whether you're using a full-on sealer or a select 1K sealer, you do not sand before you shoot base. Okay, does that help? Justin Cristiano, I have a question. How do you mask up the gap between the front fender and the door? What do you mean the gap? Front fender door. You just mask it. Like, I'm not sure. I mean, you might get a little bit of overspray going in. Another thing you can use is something called tube tape. It's like a weather stripping sealer, not sealer, like a weather stripping like tube tape. I have some in my container. I don't want to go in there right now. Are you talking about like this? So like if I'm masking, I'll just tape this up and mask it so I can shoot the door. You really don't worry about overspray going in because you really don't see anything anyway. See, Jerry says, where is Jerry at? A lot of questions coming in. Lifetime VIP from Texas. What is the best way to remove overspray on powder coated rims? What type of overspray? What type of overspray? Powder coating is pretty damn strong. So you could even use like a reducer, paint reducer, or a lacquer thinner to remove it, and you shouldn't damage it at all. I've done it before. Another thing, I'm not sure because it's powder coating is a little porous. It can be porous. You might be able to try using a clay bar. Okay, I've never tried that. I usually just use like a reducer, paint reducer. It's a little less. It's not as strong as a lacquer thinner. You know what I mean? A reducer is not as strong as a lacquer thinner. So you could use base coat reducer, clear coat reducer. Okay, any of those, less hard, less chemical than a paint lacquer thinner to remove overspray. I'm going to do a project with an electric spray gun. I know you advise against it. I don't advise electric spray guns are mostly for home use, for home painting. I know you advise against it, but in my circumstances won't allow me to use a compressor traditional paint gun. So you might want to look into a turbine air compressor for a pneumatic spray gun. You might want to look into that. So just putting that out there. Bold and bearded. One more question. I have to tape some graphics on a helmet, so I have to clear it and scuff it. So do I have to clear it and scuff it, or can I just paint dry for a day? What? Let the paint dry for a day and start my taping. Yeah, if you're doing graphics on helmets and things like that, you could leave it base coat for a couple days and then clear it. It's not going to make a huge deal. You can also clear it, let that dry, sand it down with 400 again or 800, and then do more graphics on top of it, and then, you know, mask it up or whatever, you know, do what you got to do and do it. So again, Bold and Bearded, are you a member of VIP? We show you how to do this. I did a couple of custom motorcycles in VIP, and we have all those steps actually, doing, you know, multi-tone and pinstriping and whatnot in VIP. So you might want to check that out. Jeff Eaton says, have you ever rolled on primer 2K in small areas instead of getting out of a spray gun and cleaning? I do not like the 1K can primer. Yeah, the 1K can primer sucks. I've never tried. I think Eastwood has a roll-on primer for automotive that you can test out. I've never tried it. I usually just mix up my primer and spray it, or I use Spray Max, which is about 25, 30 bucks an aerosol can. It's a 2K filler primer. You pop the cap on the bottom, you shake it. It's a 2K. And yeah. Yesterday, and when I was doing the base on the cluster, it fisheyed really bad because I'd done your little trick of dusting the base on, blowing air on it, and it came out sweet. That works, buddy. So just don't freak out. If you notice like a little bit of, that's why it's always important to do like a light tack coat first to make sure you got no reactions. Because if you go straight wet, your paint's going to be thicker and deeper. And when you have those fish eyes, it's going to be harder to conceal. So, you know, you go like a medium, you don't go wet. You just go medium at first, see how it's laying on. If you have some sort of like reaction, then you just keep dusting it little by little, spraying air, dusting it. It'll cover. And then you could just go, you know, go with a heavier coat, and then you're good. Hey, Tony, when you Rhino sprayed your Chevy van front grille, was the plastic adhesion enough, or did you have to scuff the plastic prior? Always scuff if you're doing anything. Even prior to adhesion promoter, you should scuff it. Okay. Really. So I did sand it down with like a 150 or a 180 grit. It's going to be coming out in the van video. So you're going to see step by step how I did that. But Rhino lining is thick. So, you know, I scuffed it with like a 150 or 180 because there was like paint flaking and chipping on it. Got it all smooth. And then I wiped it down, and then I whacked it with my Rhino liner. Tom says, how can I make touch-up paint to give to a customer? Does it have to be 1K, or is there a way to make base coat, clear coat into a touch-up? There's really no way to do it, because once you add, if you mix clear coat, you have to put activator in it for it to work. What I usually do for touch-up is, because rock chips are so small, I just use base coat. I mean, they're going to be flat in color, but it does the job. You know, there's no point in really putting base and mixing a little dab of clear and putting clear on it, because you're just going to have these shiny clear domes on your paint job. You know, so when I do rock chips or whatnot, I'm like, do we have rock chips on this Tesla? You know, these are more like bug things, but this is a little rock chip here. Like, realistically, like a little dab of white base will do the job. You know, you won't see it. So it's really up to you. When I do rock chip touch-ups, I used to give my customers like a little bottle if they wanted, like a nail polish bottle of base coat, and they could just touch it up themselves. You know, really, it's good enough. You know? Boom says, after I prep and sand to 400, what single stage paint would be cheap to flip a Civic hatchback? I mean, you could go on eBay. I mean, your local auto body supply, they have packs, and the cheapest colors are black or white. And that's what I did on the Good Van project right there. So black and white are the cheapest packs. I used, let me show you the can that I got from my stuff. I used AIC. It was about $100 for my 1 gallon. I still got leftover. Still got a good amount left over. $100 for a gallon with hardener and with reducer. And the mixture for that is 1/8, 1 to 8. So you got 8 parts of paint, 1 part of hardener, and then 10% reducer. So black or white's going to be the cheapest for you, bro. But there are a lot of colors, Sherman-Williams, DuPont. There's a lot of colors you can choose from. And single stage is a lot cheaper than base coat clear coat anyway. So you're probably looking at, you know, maybe $200 for a single stage for everything you need, or less, or a lot less. 7, sweet. Okay, planning on painting matte black racing stripes. Should I use a matte clear over gloss black base to accomplish this mission? One choice. Actually, I've never done that, because you could get a hot rod black, which is just a flat. Damn, this dog is crazy. Nala, relax. You could get a hot rod black, which is a satin black single stage, and just be done with it. So I don't know why you want to, like, you could. There is a flattening agent you could look into. Sherman-Williams has one. PPG has one. Just Google like Sherman-Williams or PPG flattening agent. You add it to your clear coat, and depending on how much you add, it turns it flatter. So you could do a flat clear coat if you want. I have never done that, so you might want to test it out. I've never done a flat clear coat over a gloss color. All the flats that I did were mostly just a flat single stage. Planning on using Acme Finish 1 for this clear coat. What is your opinion on this clear? I love this clear, bro. Like, I've been using this clear on a lot of my paint jobs, and I still have another fresh gallon to go. So it's a great clear coat. It's inexpensive, and it's a good clear coat. Like, I am impressed. I painted all of my motorcycles with it, and the paint jobs come out amazing. Preferred 4x4-inch dent removal on quarter panel, hammer dolly, or stud weld. I mean, if you can always, if you guys can get to the back of a panel, hammer and dolly. If you guys can't get to the back of it, stud weld. That's pretty much it. Front metal window trim. Hope to paint it black. Sand it with 80 grit or 150 grit, somewhere around 80 grits. It might be a little too much. Sand it with 150, okay, and prime it. You could use a 2K DTM primer, direct to metal, any type of 2K. And sometimes some primers, some 2K filler primers won't say DTM, but they are DTM, direct to metal. Like the European genuine coatings that I'm using, on the back of the can, it says it's a DTM. You can spray over metal, but when you look at the branding on the front, it doesn't say it. I don't know why they kind of messed up on the branding there. But spray it with primer, sand it flat, sand it smooth, and then paint it. Any advice for spraying flat matte finish? Man, I don't know why people like matte so much. It's the most, I don't know. It's the worst. It's the worst durable paint, period. Like, you can't leave that in the elements outside. Like, I don't know. People like matte. I don't like matte finishes. It just doesn't last long, guys. You can mess it up really quickly. Unless it's plasti dip. Unless it's rubberized plasti dip. Then if you screw up or if you don't like it anymore, you can peel it off. So one thing why I don't like spraying matte. Unless you're going to be doing a matte powder coat, it's a lot more durable, but flat. I mean, so many people came into the shop back in the day when I was painting. They wanted a matte paint job. I did it. A year or two later, they're like, man, I want to get, I don't want matte anymore. I want to put something else on it, or I shouldn't have done it. Matte is just the worst for upkeep. So I'm not a matte finish fan, unless, again, it's powder coating, and unless it's a rubberized plasti dip type of thing on rims or something. So if you use DTM primer, do I still need epoxy? No, you could just use a DTM primer right over it. No need for epoxy. All right. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next week. If you have any Q&A, talk to you later. Have a great week. Peace out.